I've got self-rising flour here, some buttermilk, and 1 stick of butter. Now, we're using butter in 2 forms today. I've also got about 2 tablespoons of melted butter on my countertops that we're going to brush our biscuits with, and they're going to be out of this world, y'all. So, let's get started. I have whisked together just self-rising flour. That's 1 ingredient, but it actually has 3 ingredients in it. It's flour and baking soda as well as salt. So this is what I like to call a triple whammy ingredient. It really packs a punch, and the difference between all-purpose flour and self-rising flour is that you have already your leavening agents, which help your biscuits to rise, and salt, which is just going to make them taste great. Now, I went ahead and cubed up 1 stick of cold butter, and here's a tip, y'all. Pop this butter into your freezer for just a few minutes right before you use it, and that is going to allow us to really get a flaky biscuit. So, as you can see, it's super cold. I'm going to just get this right out of my dish. And you don't need any fancy equipment to make buttermilk biscuits at home. But what I like to do is use a pastry blender, if you have one, to really work that butter into our flour. And you just want to kind of rotate your bowl and press that butter into the flour. And what you're looking for is just pea-sized bits. And that is going to really give us that flaky biscuit with a nice buttery taste. And you can use your hands too, just like so. Clean hands and take them and just kind of crumble that butter and work it in. And it just takes a little bit longer that way, but the heat from your hands works to kind of melt that butter into this mixture. So this takes a few minutes, and you don't want to rush the process. Give y'all a close-up so you can see those pea-sized crumbles. Now we're ready to incorporate that buttermilk. And I'm using full-fat buttermilk today. That's important because we want it to taste good. We're not skimping here. You want to add your buttermilk just a little bit at a time. And let me grab a spoon so I can get in there and stir it well. And you just want to stir it around until you see it come together. You don't want to overwork your dough because then we'd have tough biscuits. Just get in there and mix it until that buttermilk comes together with that flour. You can see I'm just kind of lightly, gently tossing it. A little bit more of this. And I've got my oven preheated to 450 degrees. And I'm going to bake these up today in my cast iron skillet. So you can also use a baking sheet. Okay, that has come together. I've got a little bit of extra flour here that I'm just going to dust my work surface with. And then we're going to pour these biscuits right onto our surface and finish kind of putting them together. Knead it a little bit, just a few times. Get it off of that spoon here. All right, I'm just going to press this dough in, kind of fold it over on top of itself a few times. You don't want it to be sticky, so if you feel like it's sticky, just sprinkle you a little bit more flour over the top. Kind of fold it over itself. And then we're going to pat this out today. You can use a rolling pin, but you know, I find that you can just pat it right out into a circle, and you want to do probably about 1/4 of an inch thick to a 1/2 inch, according to how thick you like your biscuits. That looks just about right, and man, you can see those cold bits of butter in there. Oh, this is going to be some kind of good, y'all. Okay, now before I cut into these, I'm going to grab my cast iron skillet out of my oven, which I popped in there while it was preheating. And that's a great tip, guys. You need a really hot pan or skillet to bake up your biscuits in. That's going to help them to rise. So let me grab that. I'll be right back. Okay, I've just grabbed my hot skillet out of the oven. I'm using a biscuit cutter today, and I'm going to dip that biscuit cutter down in my extra flour so my biscuits don't stick. And we're just going to go around and cut these biscuits out like so, and carefully place them into that skillet. You can hear them sizzle, y'all. Oh yeah. And I'm just going to put them in there touching, because if you put your biscuits in there touching, then they're going to rise up really tall, and that's exactly what we want. Yum. Now, let's talk about this. If you don't have a biscuit cutter, you can use a drinking glass, or you can just pat your dough out into a rectangle and cut them into 9 squares. Biscuits don't have to be round. So that is how you make Southern buttermilk biscuits. Let's talk about those tips. You need a really hot pan. You need cold ingredients, and don't overwork your dough. So as you can see, I've just kind of reshaped these biscuits, those scraps, and I'm going to continue cutting them out. Just repat these, and this recipe makes about 9 biscuits. Oh, that butter is already starting to sizzle over here in my hot skillet. Man alive, what you talking about? These are going to be some kind of good. Now with that last one, I'm just going to take him and pat him right out with my hands. We'll move this guy over a little bit. Set him right there. These are going to go back into my oven for 12 to 15 minutes. But before they do, I am going to brush them with a little bit more of this melted butter. Man, this is looking so delicious, y'all. And they'll bake up to a beautiful golden brown and rise up pretty. Ooh-wee. Into the oven they go. I have just pulled these hot golden brown buttery biscuits out of my oven, and I cannot wait to get in here, y'all. Man, they look good, and my kitchen smells phenomenal. Now,